Mia, what are you doing here? I was surprised to see my 8-year-old granddaughter in tattered clothes, rummaging through trash in the park. Yet, she ran away saying, "I'm not Mia." There's no way I could have mistaken her. Driven by concern, I called my son only to be met with, "I'm busy with the kids' sports day today." My son, suddenly angry, was drowned out by the sound of cheering children and announcements in the background. Then, who was that child? The scene just wouldn't leave my mind. And what followed unveiled an incredible truth behind it all. I'm Nancy, 58 years old. A few years ago, I lost my husband, a corporate executive, to illness. Thanks to the inheritance he left me, I've been living a comfortable life as a homemaker. About a 10-minute drive from our house is where my son Mike, his wife Iris, and their 8-year-old daughter Mia live. Grandma's omelette is my favorite. Can I come eat it every day? I'm happy, but you have school, don't you? Then, I will live with Grandma. That way, you can make it for me every day. My granddaughter's affection for me is just too cute to handle. My son got a job at a major company through my husband's connections. I thought they were living comfortably with his salary. However, he was reckless with money, often spending his salary without thinking, which led to fights with his wife. Then, one day, I received a call from my daughter-in-law Iris. I told Mike to stop wasting money, but he just got angry, saying it's his money to spend as he likes. Hearing how troubled she was, I decided to visit their house to give my son a piece of my mind. When I rang the doorbell, Iris welcomed me and led me to the living room. Mike, lounging on the sofa and fiddling with his phone, glanced at me and sighed deeply. "Do you even realize you're the breadwinner? Cut it out. I know that without you nagging me." Our exchange escalated into a big fight. This incident strained our relationship, and since then, my son stopped coming to visit. What a mess. Still, when I contacted him wanting to give Mia her birthday present, he came over. I tried to hold back, but upon seeing Mike, I couldn't help but nag. He turned away as if he didn't want to hear it. "Every time I see you, it's just lectures. Annoying. Just send me as gifts through a money order from now on." His unexpected response left me flustered. "What? Then I won't be able to see Mia. That's your punishment for angering me. Don't ever bring Mia here again. Live the rest of your life alone." His harsh words left me pale with shock. Despite my condition, my son, unchanging in his demeanor, took Mia and left. The sight of her looking back at me worriedly kept haunting me, deepening my sadness. For a while, I was downcast and withdrew into myself. I hoped that time would change Mike's feelings. Convincing myself of this, I somehow calmed my heart. Feeling unable to go outside, I confined myself at home, but knowing this couldn't continue, I resumed my daily walks. It was around 3 months later when I decided to explore a little off my usual route. I can still walk just fine, I thought to myself. But suddenly, I felt exhausted and decided to take a break, so I stopped by a nearby park. There, right in front of me, was a girl in grimy clothes, her head plunged into a trash can, scavenging. I approached quietly, and upon seeing her face, I involuntarily caught my breath. "Mia? Is that you, Mia?" "No, it's not." She glanced at me for a moment, her eyes wide with surprise, then ran away as if fleeing. A case of mistaken identity? No, that couldn't be. She looked just like Mia. I couldn't stop thinking about the girl, so I called my son. "What do you want?" "I'm busy with Mia's field day today." "That can't be right." "Because..." Without waiting for my reply, my son grumbled. Then, from the depths of the phone, I could hear children's cheers and announcements. "Next up is the ball toss." "Is everyone ready?" echoed a voice. So, Mike was indeed at the field day. "Did you hear that announcement?" "Yes, I know you're at the field day. But something's off. A girl looking just like Mia was scavenging through trash at the park." It's impossible for me to misidentify my beloved granddaughter. Asserting so, He seemed momentarily at a loss for words. What? You must be mistaken. Ridiculous. Don't call me for such nonsense. But quickly reverting to his usual tone, my son hung up abruptly. Was it really a case of mistaken identity, as he suggested? Feeling an indescribable sense of discomfort, that scene stubbornly clung to my mind. With these unsettled feelings, I resumed my walk. Unconsciously, my feet led me to my granddaughter's school. But the usually bustling grounds were deserted and eerily quiet. What in the world is going on? Frozen by the unexpected sight, a poster caught my eye. The date showed that the field day had ended last week, revealing my son's words to be a lie. Then, the girl I saw in the park might actually have been Mia. The more I thought about it, the more questions swirled in my head. Thinking it faster to verify than to wonder, I headed to my son's house and rang the doorbell. After a short wait, the door opened to reveal the girl I had seen at the park, in tattered clothes. Grandma, why are you here? Seeing me, she shrank back, tears welling up in her eyes. Hugging her tightly, I couldn't help but ask. Mia, was it really you at the park? And what's with those clothes? Where are your parents? No matter how much I pressed, she only repeated, "It's nothing, I'm fine." Anyway, I'm coming in. Mia tried to stop me, but I insisted and entered the house. The hallway was covered in dust, and when I opened the living room door, trash was scattered everywhere, with a smell of rotten garbage. The room was in complete disarray, leaving me at a loss for words. What in the world is this? I was about to clean up. Please, go back home, Grandma. My granddaughter refused to answer any questions. Looking at the expiration date on a snack bread bag on the floor, they were all a week old. The refrigerator was empty, nothing inside. Could it be that Mia has been living alone all this time? As I was thinking, my granddaughter's stomach made a loud gurgle. I couldn't leave Mia in that house, so after persuading her, I took her back to my place, gave her a bath, and fed her. At first, she was timid, but as she took bite after bite of the side dishes, her expression softened. Mia, you've always loved my omelets, haven't you? Are they good? Stuffing her favorite food into her mouth, she nodded several times, tears rolling down her cheeks. It was as if all the emotions she had been holding back were suddenly pouring out. With a full stomach and feeling calmer, Mia began to open up little by little. Behind her scavenging in the park's trash cans, there lay a shocking truth. Mom has to undergo surgery and has been hospitalized for a while, so she's not been home. Neither my son nor my daughter-in-law had told me anything about this. We hadn't been in touch much since the disagreement over Mia's birthday present, but still. What about your dad? Right after Mom was hospitalized, he said he'd found a new family and left, and hasn't come back. I couldn't help but exclaim what at her unexpected revelation. This new family my son had, what on earth was it? The more I thought about it, the more I felt sorry for this child. Why didn't you contact me if you were in trouble? You know you can always rely on me. Her face, which had been calm up until then, clouded over. Dad said, if I told anyone about this, he'd never let me see Mom again, so I endured. Eventually, when food ran out and she could no longer bear the hunger, she resorted to rummaging through park trash cans for days. But Mia was still going to elementary school, so she must have been eating at least the school lunches. Have you been wearing these torn clothes to school? Dad called the school and said I didn't want to go, so for a while, he told the teacher I was staying with distant relatives. Upon further conversation, it turned out she wanted to see her school friends and attend school, but even that was denied to her. My son had kept her from meeting anyone to ensure she didn't talk about what he was doing. To verify the shocking revelations from my granddaughter, I called my daughter-in-law's cell phone. What? Is that really true? I was shocked, too. Iris said she had a gynecological condition requiring surgery and thought Mike was taking proper care of Mia during her hospitalization. However, she had been suspicious lately because her calls were often dodged with various excuses, preventing her from speaking to Mia. I'm sorry for causing trouble because of me. How is Mia doing? She's eating well now and has perked up, so don't worry. Assuring my worried daughter-in-law that I would take responsibility for Mia, I ended the call. Then, I immediately contacted my son. When I confronted him about everything, he nonchalantly brushed it off. Mia is fine, so why raise your voice? Last time you called, it was during her son's field day. Do you even realize what you're doing? For now, she's just a mistress, but I plan to settle down with her. Plus, I've always wanted a boy, so this works out perfectly. He matter-of-factly shared that he was living with his mistress and her child, neglecting his own daughter. My insides were boiling with anger, and I felt an urge to slap him if he were here. Anyway, Mia. I told her not to spill the beans, or she'd regret it. How dare you? Leaving Mia like that, not even letting her go to school. That's not what a parent does. Despite my lecture, Mike was dismissive, showing no signs of remorse and starting to spout selfish justifications. I've got the school handled, and since Iris is in the hospital, I made sure all communication from the school comes to me. As long as no one finds out, it's fine. Man, I'm smart, huh? Hearing my son laugh about something that could very well lead to police involvement sent shivers down my spine, feeling both horror and disbelief. What are you planning to do about Iris? She's done. Can't have kids anymore, so I'm kicking her out. I've decided to start a new family with her. The thought of my daughter-in-law suffering in the hospital, unaware of the situation, broke my heart. However, my son, stubborn as ever, refused to listen to any of my persuasions. To make matters worse, he even had the nerve to leave a message saying, "Tell Iris to get out of my house as soon as possible." Filled with indignation at Mike's selfishness, I was trembling with rage. But realizing that talking further wouldn't solve anything, I calmed myself and ended the conversation with him. Later, I took Mia and went to visit my daughter-in-law in the hospital. Iris hugged Mia tightly and said through tears, "I'm sorry for making things hard for you. As long as you are okay, I'm fine. I hope you get better soon. I'll work hard so we can live together again. Until then, Nancy, please take care of her for me." I gently patted her head and smiled, saying, "Leave it to me." When Mia mentioned she was thirsty, I asked her to buy a drink. Then, I apologized for my selfish son and explained everything to Iris without hiding the truth. It's unforgivable. I'm the one most hurt by being unable to have children. And to cheat at a time like this. As a woman, I deeply understood Iris's pain and found myself tearing up. Hearing the truth, she cried, expressed her frustration, and decided to divorce my son. I think it's best for Mia if you, Iris, raise her after divorcing Mike. But before that, I'd like to give him a piece of my mind. It's my fault for being powerless. Iris blamed herself, but the fault lies with my son. When I told her it wasn't her fault, Mia came back with the drink. Even though it was just for a little while, Mia was visibly happy to be doted on by Iris, whom she hadn't seen in a long time. I strongly wished to spare these two any further sadness. On the way home from the hospital with my granddaughter, an idea struck me. That's it. I have a plan to corner him. A month later, I called Mike. Iris has agreed to divorce you. She's moved her stuff out of the house, so come over to the house you used to live in whenever it's convenient for you. Seriously? Good job, Mom. Thanks. Just give me a moment. Mike seemed to be making a call, and after a while, he said he would come in 2 weeks. With Iris still in the hospital, I mediated and finalized their divorce. Time passed, and on the day Mike said he would come, a moving truck loaded with boxes stopped in front of the house. From the second-floor window, I saw my son and his mistress arriving, smiling happily as if nothing was wrong. I had told Mia not to come downstairs no matter what, and then I went down to the first floor. As I waited inside, I heard the sound of the key trying to open the front door. What? That's weird. The key won't turn. What's going on? My son's panicked voice came from the other side. With a sigh, I forcefully opened the door from the inside, shooting an angry glare at my son. Mom? What are you doing here? Didn't I tell you I'd be waiting at the house you used to live in? My son, not expecting me to be inside, stepped back in shock, his eyes wide. What's in the moving truck? My new wife's stuff. What are you talking about? This isn't your house anymore. I've changed the locks. What? Don't do whatever you want. This is my house. Didn't you call me here? Red-faced and looking as if he'd been humiliated, the mistress poked him, confused. What's going on? Standing firm in front of an increasingly agitated Mike, I leaned in closer. Did you forget? This house was in your father's name. Yeah, so it'll eventually be mine, right? He assumed he was entitled to inherit everything. You're terribly mistaken. After your father passed away, I inherited this house. Unaware of this, he had been living carefree. I was considering leaving this house to you when I pass away if you, Mia, and Iris were living happily together. But you abandoned your wife after her surgery and neglected your daughter. I then delivered another crucial piece of reality. By the way, I've changed the house's ownership to Iris. My son, incredulous that the house could be in his wife's name, glared fiercely, but I was not one to be easily shaken. This was my carefully thought-out plan to ensure Mia and Iris wouldn't face difficulties after I'm gone. The divorce is final, and if you enter the house without permission, you'll be committing a crime. As I reached for my phone to call the police, my son hesitated for a moment before stopping me. If you don't want me to call them, disappear with the moving truck, and fast. Don't joke with me. I've already given up my previous apartment, and all my stuff is here. Oh, that reminds me. I've stored your belongings in a storage unit. Here, take the key and the bill. He was fuming with anger, but I pretended not to hear him. And as I said, goodbye, and attempted to close the door, my son used all his strength to stop it. I get it, you're really mad. But please, let me stay at the family home for a little while. I shook my head firmly and gave Mike a cold look. You want an heir, don't you? Wouldn't it be reassuring to have her son for the future? He desperately tried to persuade me, explaining that his mistress was a single mother with a 6-year-old boy. They had become intimately involved around the time Iris's illness was discovered 2 months ago. I had mistakenly thought he had been cheating for a long time, but it turned out the boy wasn't Mike's. To think he'd abandon his family for a woman he met just 2 months ago. The shame is beyond words. When I asked if she knew he had a family, she nodded slightly, leaving me utterly dismayed. A grandchild by blood is precious regardless of gender. Whatever you say, Mia is my only grandchild. Realizing my resolve was unshakable, he glared at me threateningly, clicking his tongue. I couldn't believe this was my child. I met his gaze again. From today, our parent-child relationship ends. I refuse to recognize someone so selfish, who callously abandons his sick wife and adorable child. Hearing this, my son twisted his mouth into a sneer, looking at me as if I was foolish. Oh, is that so? Fine by me. It's a relief not to have to deal with a nagging old woman. I was astounded at how rotten his nature was, pushing him further into a corner. I've heard you're not doing well at work. The president has been protecting you because of your father, but after discussing this matter, he's reconsidering your employment. His habitual tardiness and early departures were problematic, and it seemed likely he would be fired. That's a lie, right? Without my job title and salary. How am I supposed to live? Only now did my son realize the gravity of his situation. Mom, I'm sorry. I'll change my ways, just don't abandon me. Don't you feel sorry for a son who might struggle for food? His plea only fueled my anger further. How dare you say that when you left Mia alone to struggle for food? Enough is enough. Seeing my anger at its peak, my son fell silent, but I didn't hold back. You won't get a penny of the inheritance. Also, you'll pay Iris $30,000 for cheating and $70,000 for Mia's upbringing in a lump sum. No way. I'll be left with nothing. What am I supposed to do now? My son, overwhelmed, began trembling and turned pale. I didn't care what became of Mike. Turning to the mistress who had been silently listening, I said, "Since you are involved with a married man, you'll be paying $10,000 in damages." She retorted, "That's not what we agreed on. You promised me a house and luxury." But Mike just collapsed, unable to respond. This isn't the time to be sitting down. The movers are waiting, aren't they? Ah! It's too early to scream. Be prepared to face charges for leaving Mia alone at home. I handed him the storage unit flyer, shut the door with a bang, and watched from the second-floor window as the truck drove away, whispering a farewell. After everything was settled, I called Iris while petting Mia's head upstairs. I took care of it. Now, all that's left is for you to get better. Thankfully, her primary doctor had just given her the green light to be discharged. From now on, Mia can fully enjoy being pampered by Iris. Afterwards, for the crime of neglecting his daughter, Mike ended up spending his days in a grim, gray place. Even after coming out, having paid a substantial amount all at once, Mike was left penniless and in dire straits. The woman who was with him for his money, finding not only was there no money left, but she was also saddled with a compensation claim, lost her patience and left him. Mike lost his job and seemed to be living a lonely life until he eventually lost contact with everyone and his whereabouts became unknown. There were rumors of someone seeing him rummaging through garbage in a park. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried at all, but it was a situation he brought upon himself, so there was nothing to be done. Iris was able to be discharged from the hospital soon after and now lives in that house with Mia. Now that she can go to school, she heads there cheerfully every day, which is a big relief. As for me, I've been able to interact with my grandchildren again, leading to happy days. Grandma, your omelet is so delicious, I want to eat it every day. The smile on my granddaughter's face is the best nourishment of all.